Hi, I'm Dr. Sandi Queen with Queen Homeschool Supplies, and I'm continuing my video series today on homeschooling through difficult times. And this is again from my book, Homeschooling Through Adversity, which you can find in the parent resource section at queenhomeschool.com. As I talked about a little bit in yesterday's video, which was the first video in this particular series, my youngest son, Jeremiah, was diagnosed with cancer when he was 3 years old, went through 3.5 years of daily chemo, weekly spinal taps with chemo shot up around the brain stem, all sorts of wonderful not things that we had to deal with during that time. And during that time, I learned a lot, thankfully. I had a lot to learn. And so I want to share some of those things with you, even if you're not dealing with a child with cancer, just because we are all going to face crisis. And right now, with the coronavirus thing going around the world, we are all in a state of crisis. And so I thought, what an appropriate time to share this particular series of videos based on one of the sessions that I was scheduled to speak on at different conventions that were all canceled this year. So I want to talk about one of the things that was very helpful for me, and this was to prioritize. When you're in the middle of a crisis situation, you know, sometimes we can get overwhelmed by dealing with that crisis on top of an already busy lifestyle and all the things that we need to do. We need to homeschool, we need to make dinner, we need to clean our homes, we need to do whatever else it is that we do on a daily basis. And for me, what I needed to focus on at the time that in my family's life that I was just referring to was just taking care of my sick son. That was the priority. And God had promised that he would sustain me in Isaiah 41:10, and that he would uphold me and get me through this. I just needed to remember that. I will talk about something that was very important to me, and that was the task of delegating. And years ago, we had hired a business coach, and it was someone who came up to us at a homeschool convention, and he was trying to recruit people to hire him for their business coach. And when he gave us the fees, I was like totally against it. I thought, you know, it was $4,000 a month for a once a week, a half-hour phone call. And I thought, that is crazy. That's some good money. That's the business we need to get into right there. But, you know, he got to talking to my husband, and my husband saw the value in it and decided, okay, let's go ahead and hire him for a year and just see what it helps, if it can help us. Because at that time, it was my husband working a full-time job, which he still does, and me running Queen Homeschool Supplies while homeschooling 6 children. And so, you know, if you can imagine, if you're homeschooling 6 children or any large group of children, and then running a business that has 4 different phone lines ringing in your house continually, which you are responsible to answer and talk to, and packing up mail orders every day and shipping them out and ordering stock and writing books and all the things that I was doing in addition to being a wife and homeschool mom, I was overwhelmed. And so this business coach, which I was not thrilled about taking on, we had our very first call with him, and he gave me homework, which I was not happy about because I was already way overwhelmed. But the very first thing he did to me was to say, okay, Sandi, here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a list of the names of all your family members across the top of a sheet of paper and make columns under each one. And then under each column, I want you to think of every single task in your home, in your business, that needs to be done, and I want you to write that task under the name of the person who generally does that task. And so I thought, oh, great, this is going to take me forever because there's so many things that have to get done. But I did it because I knew we were paying him all this money, and I knew we were going to have another phone call the next week, and I was going to have to own up if I hadn't done my homework. And so when you know, he set up something on Google Docs for me to upload the file to and all that stuff, and then we had a conference call together, him and my husband and myself, looking at those documents. And this is what he said to me. He said, Sandi, I want you to look at the document that you uploaded and look at those columns, and I want you to tell me what the problem is. And I just kind of sat there silently. I knew what the problem was, but I didn't want to have to say it. So he said it, and he said, I'll tell you what the problem is. What I see is that you have 8 people in your household, and under each name, you've got like 3 or 4 things written in their column, but under your column, there are 17 pages of items that you do. And he said, what I want you to practice on, this was my homework for the second week, is to work on delegating as many of those 17 pages worth of tasks in your column that you can under someone else's column. And for me as a mom, and maybe a little bit of perfectionist tendencies, I really struggled with that because, you know, it's maybe some of you can relate. It was hard for me to put things like cleaning the bathroom under one of my kids' columns when I knew that it was just quicker and easier for me to just go in and do it myself, and then it would be done right. But, you know, at that time, you know, he was pushing me, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to make the most out of this. And he's right. I am overwhelmed, and I'm burnt out, and I'm burning the candle at both ends, and I'm sleeping like 3 hours a night, and I'm trying to homeschool my kids and do everything else and run a business on this. And so I did it. I delegated all that I could, and I worked for the next week on starting to teach my kids how to do those tasks that suddenly became moved into their column. One of them was making dinner every single night from scratch. Where we live out in the middle of nowhere, there's no place to order dinner to pick up. It's 45 minutes to the closest Walmart now, and this was before they built that Walmart, when it was over an hour to the closest Walmart, and that's where the few restaurants are as well. So, you know, there's no pickup, there's no delivery. It's you make it. And I don't do frozen meals. We do from scratch. We eat healthy. So it's a lot of work, you know. So I started really working on teaching my kids how to do those things, some of those things, and one of those was making dinner. Well, I saw the benefit of that years later when my youngest son was diagnosed with cancer, and we were stuck out in the hospital on the other side of the state, 7 hours away, for 3 weeks. And back home, my kids could still make dinner because I had taught all of them how to cook from scratch and how to double and triple recipes and things like that. And so, you know, we still, until my kids, 3 of my kids got married in the last year, we still followed that same dinner rotation schedule until then. And even now, with the ones that are who are still at home, we still follow a very similar, just with those 3 that got married taken off the schedule, dinner rotation schedule. So that's just one aspect of how I delegated. There's other things that we did as well, but maybe that'll help you. One thing to do is to delegate, and I'm going to talk more about a lot more tips on how to homeschool through difficult times. But start out today by maybe making those columns with your name and the names of other people in your household, and listing the tasks that each one does on a regular basis under their names. And you may be surprised, like I was, that you may find a need to delegate. So I hope that's helped you. I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next topic in homeschooling through difficult times.